Okay, buyer brokerage recording Wednesday, October 26th. Hey, Jewel, thanks for coming in today. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. So just to confirm, okay, I've got this and your referral from so-and-so. And just to clarify, you're only looking to buy, right?
Right.
Okay, perfect. And when would you say that you're looking to buy?
Ideally by the new year.
The new year. Okay, great. So we call that an A buyer, someone who's ready to go right now. Okay, and then I've got your name, your address, make sure this is correct, cell phone, email. And right now, are you renting?
No.
Okay, so what's your living situation right now? Parents, friends, car?
No. I own,
Oh, you own, but you're not looking to sell.
but I'm not looking to
Gotcha.
sell.
Okay. So there's no hurry on it. So this second house that you're buying, is this going to be the one you're going to be living in, or is it going to be for an investment?
It would be for an investment.
For an investment. Okay, perfect. Good. Good to clarify all that. Okay. And then just to clarify, you're not working with another agent, right?
No, not at this time.
Great. You will be at the end of our meeting today. And your work schedule, what's a typical work schedule for you?
Usually 9 to 5.
Okay, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
typically.
Okay. And of course, sometimes there's going to be times where we might need to, invade into that a little bit, but we'll try to avoid that as much as possible. All right. So you're working with Chad right now. Does that sound right? You talk with Chad Kozlowski with Castle Mortgage.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay, great. And I see that your maximum pre-approval amount is $300,000. And you said your ideal moving date is before the end of the year. And I'm going to put our start search date right now. So let's go over the most important thing probably that I'm going to ask you today. What areas do you like and what areas do you not like for this investment property?
I really do enjoy the accessibility of the Station North area.
Okay.
So there, Mount Vernon, basically, I don't know if you would consider that central Baltimore or downtown Baltimore, but.
And how far out from those areas would you say is an acceptable area? Like a mile in each direction, or?
Not each direction. More of like if we're looking from Mount Vernon a mile north, a mile south, and a half a mile.
Okay.
East-west.
Gotcha. Okay. So then what I'll do is I will draw that and then I will take a screenshot of what that looks like and I'll send it to you and you can let me know if I got it right or if I need to tweak the map a little bit and stuff as well.
Right.
All right, perfect. And then for this home, what's the minimum number of bedrooms that you want to have?
4.
4. And the minimum number of full bathrooms, like with a tub or a shower?
2.
2 full bath. And then do you care if there's half bath on top of that?
Yes.
At least one half bath on top of that? Okay, so we're looking at 3 bathrooms altogether, 2 full, 1 half, or more. Okay, and then garage, we're not really overly concerned about that. If it had one, it'd be great, right?
Right. I mean, especially considering the location, it may
Yeah,
not be
exactly. Okay.
possible.
And then the type of home, are you looking for row home, single family home, condo, mostly row home?
Mostly a row home.
Okay.
And I do want to revisit the parking situation, though. Although I don't want a garage, if there is a possibility of a parking pad,
Okay.
that would be great.
Okay, great. And that leads me into my next question. So what are some other special needs besides bedrooms, bathrooms, location, parking pad? What else is it about the home that you would really like to have in your home?
Obviously updated, appliances,
kitchen.
as well as, decor or,
Okay.
design. I definitely would need it to be spacious. I don't want something that's really
To open floor plan,
tight.
good
Ideally,
size.
but just a good size in terms
Okay.
of square footage.
So not a tiny home.
Right.
Got it. Okay. And if there's anything else that you think of while we're going through this, just shout it out and I'll add it in. So this is a weird question. This is something that I always ask people and it kind of catches people off guard. What are the 3 things that you're looking for, or as many as you want, that you're looking for in me when you're working with me? What are the things that you need from me, you expect from me, you want from me?
Timeliness, responsiveness, and honestly just being an overall good listener.
Okay.
I don't like repeating myself out, especially considering that, things are being bought and sold frequently. So I want to make sure that what I am looking at is actually what I actually desire.
Gotcha. Yep. So I'm your first one and your third one kind of go hand in hand with each other. You don't want to waste time. You want to be on track and everything. Yeah, that's why actually all of this is going to get put into our notes, and I don't carry around a bunch of paper with me. Everything's very timely, and you've got my cell phone number. That is the number one best way to reach me, and I'm going to go over some of that stuff as well in a minute. Anything else about me or working or in the house or anything like that? Anything else that pops into mind that you want?
It would be great if you were familiar about the neighborhood, so you can give me some insight on the neighborhood. I know that you may not be familiar with everything, but if you can give, just a little digging about, what the neighborhood is like, if they have like annual thing, just more information about the area would be great.
So I'm making a note that I'm definitely going to look that up and send that to you and stuff as well. Okay, so I've got us down with Castle Mortgage, loan officer, Chad. I've got his information, $300,000. How much do you have set aside to buy this house? 10,000. Okay. And is that in the bank?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay. And did you guys get as far as to figure out what type of loan you were going to do? Like, are you thinking it's going to be a conventional loan?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into, I've got two sets of things here. I've got all the information that I'm going to provide to you that we made up. This is the legal stuff from the state. All of this stuff you're going to take with you. So you don't have to worry about taking notes or keeping track of everything, but feel free to ask me questions as you want.
All right.
Our first page here is our buyer's page. This is about just working with us and what you could expect. Like, we like to put people first. What you want is what you need. We want to listen to you, understand you, and know what's going on. We're known in the business. That gives you the advantage. Like, when we put an offer in, people know us. They know that we get deals done. It gives you kind of like an added advantage when you're working with us as well. You're going to have a whole team working for you. I'm going to be your personal contact, but if I'm ever on vacation or unavailable for any reason, you're always going to have a team backing up. If I'm unavailable, I'll have people who will be reaching out to you and making sure that you're covered. That way you're never going to miss out on something, like because I'm on vacation or I broke my arm or anything like that. And then we're really big into teaching. As you can see from all of this stuff that I'm going over, we're really big into teaching you and educating you and making sure you know all about what you're getting yourself into. Next page is about our award-winning team. This is the team, so you can see who everybody else is. That way, if for some reason somebody were to call you, be like, oh yeah, that's Nick, or that's Casey, or that's Jewel, or whoever it might be. The next is our award-winning team. There's just some of the awards that we've won. Baltimore Top Agent. We are Better Business Bureau accredited. We're Dave Ramsey trusted, et cetera, et cetera. We're constantly, winning awards, and we're in magazines, and et cetera, et cetera. So we're the real deal. We do this day in and day out, which leads us to expecting more. You should expect more from us over our competitors. We're going to give you financial advice. We're in the top 1% worldwide. We will aggressively negotiate on your behalf. And we have a whole team full of professionals here who are all service-minded and are going to meet your needs. Now, a minute ago, you were mentioning about the neighborhood. I'm going to get into that a little bit more deeply, but one of the things that's in here is on our website, thepomfreyteam.com, you can actually go into our resources and go to community reports, and you can put in addresses and zip codes and stuff like that and find out tons of information about each individual neighborhood and stuff as well. And you can also find out school information, crime information, police reports, Census Bureau data, just about anything you want. Now, the next page, I'm going to kind of, all of this stuff you can read. Next page, I'm going to slow down a little bit because I want to go over proper expectations. I know some of your expectations. I want to hear the rest of them, and I want you to hear what my expectations are for us working together as well. So first is communication preferences. I personally do work 7 days a week. There's not a single day of the week that I'm not going to take your call or return your call. The only way I'm not going to take your call is if I'm on the phone with somebody else or if I'm meeting with someone else. And so at worst case scenario, you're going to have a 2 or 3 hour delay before you hear back from me, but that's it. If you call me after 9 p.m. at night, I'll definitely call you in the morning because it's just going to go right to voicemail at that time of day. If you have something that you need to look me up, you need me to look up, it's going to be much better for me if you email that information to me because I'm going to have to be in front of a computer anyway. And I do actually spend about half of my life in my car. So if you call me up and you're like, hey, Randy, can you look up this house on 724 Main Street and the house on 829 Uganda Street, I'm not going to be able to remember any of that stuff because I have a small brain capacity. So just email me that and I'll look it up. When I set up the search for you based on your parameters here, all I ask is that I want you to go through them and you're going to mark them as a whole heart, which means you love it, a hollow heart, which means you like it, or a trash can, which means you dislike it. Go through them, mark them up. You can put notes in them. You can do research, but that will let me know which ones you like and which ones you don't like. I can't alter any of that stuff, but I can see what you've done. Okay. Do your research. So I'm providing you with some of the tools for the online research. Do your research. When we get in in addition to the neighborhood festivals and things that are going on and the different things that are special to that neighborhood, in addition, I'm going to be pointing out things to you when we're in the neighborhood as well. Everything that I see. I like for us to keep the communication lines open. If there's ever an issue, you ever have a concern, please call me. I just want us to get it out of the way as soon as possible. If you sent me an email and I didn't respond to it, just give me a call because email is wonky and sometimes emails get lost. So don't ever think that I'm just ignoring you because that is totally not true. Current market conditions. Let me just take a second to slow down about this one. Currently, rates are hovering around 7%. It's got a lot of buyers scared. It's got a lot of sellers scared. So what's happening is there's a lot of houses that are sitting on the market, and it's a great opportunity for you as a buyer to come in and offer them the chance to sell their house for a little bit less than they would have 6 months ago, and thus getting a little bit better deal. Maybe getting your closing costs covered, so it's less cash out of pocket, or getting a cheaper price, something like that. And with houses sitting on the market longer, it gives you more choices as well. So prepared. We like to make sure everybody is prepared, that they know exactly what's going on, that they're pre-approved, they know what they want. That way, when you see the house you like, there's nothing stopping you. The only thing stopping you is yourself. We don't want any other hurdles setting up, getting in the way or anything like that. When we set up appointments, we'll have to set them up. One of the things that COVID has taught us, and it's kind of carried on from here, is when we set up the appointments, we have to be very tight with the schedule. They typically only give us 30 minutes at each house. So I will very carefully draw the map from A to Z and give us the most amount of time in each house and everything. So that means we definitely have to be on time. And when we're in the house, speak your mind. Let me know exactly what you feel about the house. You love it, you hate it, whatever. And if you hate it, let's move on to the next house and spend more time in that one, less time in this one. And likewise, if you love it, don't tell me on the way out. Tell me on the way in that you love it. That way I can explore, I can play devil's advocate, I can go in, check out the HVAC, how old it is and everything, and really get a feel for, is this going to be a good house for you? So that's looking at the houses. And then as far as the timeline goes, a lot of people, they ask, what happens after you pick a house? So after you pick a house, we write an offer, we negotiate it, we get it under contract, and then you start dealing with the lender and the title company quite a bit. From contract to close is typically about 1 month in time, okay? As far as advice goes, we already kind of talked about this a little bit. You didn't bring anybody with you today. You're free to always bring people with you if you want to, but the only thing I ask is don't bring anybody the first time I'm gonna meet them, dad, uncle, best friend, anybody like that, during the inspection. That's not the best time for them to start coming because that's the kind of negative day. That's when we find out everything that's wrong about your house. So bring them before that. We've got lots of tools. I already went over who's on your team. How does your team get chosen? So you're kind of like the coach of a baseball team. You've got your pitcher, your real estate agent, you've got your catcher, your mortgage person, you've got a title person, you've got an inspector, and then there's this fifth person on your team, the appraiser, and you don't get to pick the appraiser. The bank will blindly pick the appraiser, meaning they assign someone randomly from an appraisal pool who will go out and appraise the house and do it independently to make sure that the house is really worth, without any interference from me, you, or the sellers or anything like that. So everybody on the team, except for the appraiser, you get to pick. The next thing here is a picture of an iceberg. It may not look like an iceberg, but it's basically, its purpose here is to show you graphically that there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. Just like an iceberg is 90% underwater, most of the stuff that we do is behind the scenes, quote unquote, underwater. So for example, just even for an inspection, we have to coordinate the inspection time, meet the inspector. We're gonna spend 3 to 5 hours at the property. We receive the results, we review the results, we craft it, blah, blah, blah. So you can see, just for an inspection repair request, we're probably gonna spend about 10 to 15 hours behind the scenes just with that part itself, okay? So our next thing is 2 bags of money. So in general, when you're buying a house, you're gonna need 2 bags of money. Not physical bags of money, because they won't accept cash, but metaphorical bags of money here. One of them is gonna be the down payment, and one of them is gonna be closing costs, okay? So for your home target price of 300, I'm gonna put 300 in here. And I'm so glad that we're working with a nice even number, because if you would have said 245, I'd be pulling out a calculator right now. With conventional, typically you're looking at about a 5% down payment. So for a $300,000 house, you're looking at about a down payment of about $15,000, okay? Closing costs are roughly gonna be about 4.5%. So for a $300,000 house, you are going to be doing about $13,500 for that. So altogether, you're looking at about $28,500. Now, there are some programs that can help with that, not necessarily for investments, so we'll look into different things with that. The 4 different types of loan options are at the bottom. If you're active or a veteran, then you can do the VA. If you're looking in the land of horses and cows, you can do USDA. But most, I'd say like 90 to 95% of the loans are FHA or conventional. FHA is if your credit score is a little bit lower. You can oftentimes get a lower down payment. You can get a pretty low interest rate, but you will have private mortgage insurance for life. As opposed to conventional, you put a little bit more money down, you have a higher credit score, and you'll only pay PMI until you get to 20%. And then it'll cap off and you won't be paying PMI anymore. So the next thing I want to go over is the home buying process.
Can I interject?
Yes, please. I was just going to ask you if you had any questions. Read my mind.
I see that the last point on all of the 4 types of loans are crossed off. Why is that?
Great question. So I didn't want to get rid of it, but during COVID, we weren't seeing anyone getting closing costs help. So I haven't gotten rid of this yet because we're not seeing a lot of people getting closing cost help yet, but it is starting to happen. So I'm glad you pointed that out. Everything that's underneath the things that are crossed out is still true. If you're doing FHA, you can get up to 6% closing cost help. You would not be able to get more than what your closing cost really is. So in most cases, the most you could get would be 4.5%. But with conventional, you can typically get 3% closing cost help, which is going to cover most of your closing costs. And we could certainly give that a try when we're putting the offer in as well. Thanks for asking that, because we'll probably be changing that soon. We're starting to see maybe about 20% of our deals getting closing cost help now. So this is kind of like the thing that you would hang on the fridge or something like that. This is the steps going through from A to Z. So you start with the pre-approval. You've already done that. Right now, we're neck deep in the consultation. We're going through that. Next, I'm going to set up the search, okay? One of the things that I want you to do is to be using our Pomfrey Team community reports as well, because no matter how gorgeous the house is or how much you love it, if it's in an area that you don't like, then it's worthless to you, okay? Then we'll narrow the field. Please let us know what you really like. When you see something you like, reach out to us immediately. We will definitely book an appointment and get you in there ASAP. When we go to place an offer, we're going to talk about how aggressive do you want to be. Things to consider are purchase price, closing date, inclusions, exclusions, like what do you want included in the house? What do you not want included with the house? For example, inclusions would be, we want all the kitchen appliances included, of course. Exclusions would be, we don't want the dilapidated playground in the background that's like more splinters than wood. You can take that piece of junk with you. That would be in the exclusions. Other things to consider is the deposit. Typically, we're talking about a 1% deposit. So typically when you go to put an offer in on a house, you'll put down about $3,000. And that is actually part of, it's right here. It's actually part of your down payment. So all these things that I'm talking about here are not in addition to this sheet. They're just kind of more greater explanation. Next is inspections. Again, inspections, that's a closing cost. You're going to want to have your $300,000 house inspected. You're going to want to make sure that it's not going to let you down right after you move in. And then sometimes we can ask for a warranty, sometimes not. Like I said, we're getting into a market where that's getting a little bit more acceptable. If the seller doesn't pay for your warranty, you can always buy one for yourself. They're about $500 or $600. So we put the offer in, we negotiate it, and then when it's accepted, that's when we actually get the deposit from you. So that $3,000. We're going to schedule the inspections. You're going to call the lender and apply for the loan. And then you're going to get insurance, and you're going to do 500 other things for the lender, who's going to ask you for updated pay stubs and updated bank statements and a lot of different things like that. So it's going to be. Still with me?
Yep.
All right, great. Now, along the way, this is where that month-long process starts. Here's some of the hurdles that we'll face. First one is inspections. So we will go do the inspections. We'll book the inspection. I would like for you to be there if possible. If not, get someone to come there for you. It's always a lot easier but we're going to book it sometime when you're available. It's always a lot easier to accept the things wrong when you can actually be there and see the things that are wrong.
Can I choose my own inspector?
You may choose your own inspector. The only thing I would ask is that you let me know who you pick so I can make sure that they are not on my notorious shit list. Because we don't want to pick anybody that has a history of bad inspections or anything like that. But we can definitely talk about that for sure. Appraisal, again, you don't get to pick the appraiser. That is part of the closing cost as well. And that's typically going to be about $500 or $600. There's the loan process, title, insurance, and we will guide you through all of that. We also have a concierge moving service. It's called Updater. It'll help you walk you through the different things that you need to do, like getting your newspaper forwarded, because we know how important that newspaper is to you. Getting your mail forwarded, setting up BG&E in your new house. All the different things that, are kind of small but important. We'll do the final walkthrough 0 to 7 days before settlement. It really depends on how many things they were fixing, what shape, the house was in, how shady the seller might be. If they seem shady, we might do it a little bit further in advance. That way we don't get caught off guard. And then I'll remind you again, like when we're sitting at settlement, I'll look over and be like, hey, you called BG&E, right? Okay, great. Because we don't want to move into a dark and cold house or hot house, whichever season we're in. We'll review the closing statement. One of the great things about all this paperwork is that by law now, you're going to receive your closing statement 3 days before settlement, which means that when you come to settlement, you're not seeing your numbers for the first time. You'll see all the numbers 3 days ahead of time. You'll have to click it to approve it, and then that will process everything and let settlement know that it can take place now. So it's a really good thing that came about.
When did that change?
This changed about 3 or 4 years ago. I think in like 2000. 2017 or 2018. They came up with that. Yep. And then nowadays you wire money and you need to make sure you bring your ID. So no matter how you get here, motorcycle, hot air balloon, parachute, just make sure you bring your ID with you. And then closing day is a celebration. Like, it's only going to be an hour long. A lot of people think that closing is a lot harder than it is. It's about an hour. You're going to sign your name about 100 times. So do your hand exercises, warm them up. And it's a celebration. We'll probably have champagne if we do it here and stuff like that. We keep champagne on hand. And when you move in, one of the first things I would recommend you do is change the locks, because you don't have any idea how many people have keys to that house, especially if it was a rental ahead of time. And then client appreciation is the last step. Like, we keep in touch. We don't close the book and say, okay, we're never going to deal with Jewel again. You know, we're going to keep in touch with you. We're going to invite you to our parties. And if you ever have any questions in the future, keep in touch. Definitely. All right. The next things are kind of, you know, some shameless promotion stuff. We're big into giving back. We like to give back to the community. Free Lunch Friday, Hartford County Public Schools, Compassion International, Sandy Cove. All of these things are money that our team gives to on a regular basis. Here's some of our client stories, so you can read some of the adventures of some of our clients and some of the nice things they had to say about us. And then, almost last but not least, we'd love to have you as a client. So this kind of explains in English what some of these legal documents are that we're going to go through in just a second. It kind of breaks it down in English for you. And then the very last page on this side is the obligatory lead-based paint document. Any house, especially those in Baltimore City, that was built before 1978 may have lead-based paint in it. So if the person completely renovated, stripped it down to the studs or the walls, then it probably won't have lead-based paint in it. But there's always a chance it could have lead-based paint in it. And you just want to make sure that you're being careful, whether you're doing renovations or you're having small children in the house. Either way, just make sure that everyone's taken care of and nobody's eating it or breathing in dust or anything. Any questions about that?
None thus far, no. Thank you for the thorough overview.
It is very thorough, isn't it? All right, so the next part is the agreement. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over all of this with you, and then I'll, go over questions or whatever, and then we'll sign it together at the end. So the first 2 pages of this, it says right here, this is not a contract, and I'm just going to underline it as well. This is not a contract. So what it does is it outlines for us that there is a seller's agent and there is a buyer's agent, okay? The seller's agent, that's the person who's representing the person that's selling the house. The seller's agent is what we like to call the devil, and they are not your agent. And it doesn't matter if they're a Cummings and Company agent or Long and Foster or Keller Williams or anything in between, they are not your agent, and you should definitely not talk with them. So this entire document is just geared towards letting you know that I'm your agent, I'm the only one who has your best interest at heart, and I'm representing you. And over here, it says that we, the buyers, acknowledge that Cummings and Company and me are representing you as the buyer's agent. And then I would just have you sign there, okay? Again, it's not a contract, not that. Next thing, this is also not a contract. This is consent for dual agency. What this does is it takes the first document and it expands it. So now what happens if you fall in love with a house that's listed by our company? So if you see this sign hanging from it, or you see this on the internet or something like that, that means it's listed by our company. Not necessarily by me, probably not by me, but listed by our company. If you're looking in Baltimore City, we happen to be the #1 brokerage in Baltimore City. So you're gonna see this quite a bit. What dual agency says is that you understand that if the other agent works for Cummings and Company Realtors, that they are not your agent. And so we have a special name for them. Again, it is the devil. They are the devil. Even though they may be the nicest person outside of real estate right now, they're the devil. You shouldn't talk with them. So by default, we can show you all RE/MAX, Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, Long and Foster, blah, blah, blah. All of those listings by default, because we all share the MLS. But the only thing we're not allowed to share with you without your signature is Cummings and Company ones. I know it kind of seems kind of backwards, but this document right here just says that you acknowledge that if you look at Cummings and Company realtors' houses, that you acknowledge that the other agent is not your agent. And the way this document works, you'll see there's a whole bunch of spaces for signatures. The only thing you're gonna do today is just sign saying that I explained it to you. If you fall in love with a house that's listed by Cummings and Company, then I'll bring this document out again and you'll sign it a second time. And guess what? I'll explain it to you a second time as well, because it's very important to the state that we make sure that you know who represents you and who doesn't. All right, the next page is just a page full of definitions. Some of these are going to apply to your house and some of these are not. The one thing that I want to point out to you, and I'm just going to star it, circle it, highlight it, do everything I can to it, is wire fraud through email. Nowadays, wire fraud through email is just very rampant. People are spoofing each other's emails. They're sending emails to clients and stuff saying you need to wire the money to keep the deal going and blah, blah, blah. So in essence, unless you've just spoken with one of us, never wire any money through that you get instructions via email or a random text message or anything crazy like that. So this is just your signing a page full of definitions here. All right, this is actually the agreement. This actually says agreement at the top. This is the only thing in this entire packet that is an agreement. It's only 5 pages long. So how exactly do you want to take ownership? Like, how do you normally sign your checks and important legal documents? Do you put your middle initial in there? No. So just first name, last name? Mm-hmm. Perfect. Easy enough. I like to keep it the same because your hand is going to have like muscle memory, and your hand is just going to take over. So let's just sign things the way we normally do. So I'm putting in today's date and your name. I've already got all of your mailing information, all that. I'm not going to fill that in. The other thing I'm going to fill in is part 4. I'm going to put today's date, and I'm going to put 6 months from now because we're going to be done way before 6 months is up. So the two main things that are important about working with someone is how do you get out of the agreement and how much is it going to cost you? So the first one we're going to address right here on the first page. Section 4 of this agreement, whatever this thing is, explains how you get out of the agreement. There's 4 ways. 1, you buy a house. It ends. That's the happy way. That's the way we all like. That's what we want to happen. The second thing is, if it doesn't happen that you buy a house and you don't do anything, this agreement automatically goes away after 6 months. Okay? You don't have to do anything. The third way is you can cancel it in writing. There's no 1-800 number in here. There's no anything like that. All you have to do is send me an email saying that you're fired. Obviously, I hope that you would call me and let me know if there was something I could do to save our relationship. But in the end, if you didn't feel like it was worth saving or you couldn't save it, then you do have the option to cancel it in writing. And then the fourth way is we can cancel it in writing as well. And yes, sometimes I do cancel them, but it's typically only if my client shows me that they're completely nuts. So that's the one thing I have trouble dealing with. If you call me up and you're mad and you raise your voice, I'm not thin-skinned. I can take that. Like if you get upset about something, I get upset about things too. So it's understandable. But if it really comes down to we just can't work together or we each feel you'd be better off with somebody else, then we can just, agree to disagree and part ways. So the other way is the other thing is how much you're gonna pay. That's gonna be addressed here on page 2 in a second. But before we get to that, this is the agreement. This is kind of the crux of the agreement. What are you agreeing to? You're saying that you're going to have an exclusive relationship with us. You're not going to go out and hire 5 other real estate agents. You're going to provide whatever financial information you need to the lender. We don't collect your information. If you want to bring it in, we'll scan it and we can send it to the lender. But other than that, we stay out of your financial business. Next is C, D, and E. I kind of group all these together. If you see signs, advertisements, new homes, coming soon, a sign on the street, a guy waving a sign in the air, any of that craziness, just call us or email us or whatever and let us know what that information is and let us represent you right from the beginning, especially new home builders, which I don't think we're going to encounter. But if you do, just let me approach them first so I can represent you. Section 7 talks about the things that I'm going to do for you. I'm going to represent all of your interests and be your advisor. I'm going to help you locate the property and assist you from A to Z. Now, part 8, how much is this going to cost you? Well, when you buy a house, I'm circling the $495 here because it stands out. You as the buyer will pay Cummings & Company $495. There's never a scenario where you're writing any checks out to me or anything like that. That would be illegal. You're not allowed to pay me directly. But at closing, and that is one of your closing costs, it'll be $495, and that would be directly to Cummings & Company. And it would just be part of your closing costs. You'll see it when your lender has worked up all of your numbers for you. Okay? We get paid by the seller. The next paragraph and a half, section 8A and B, explain how the MLS works. Essentially, when a seller puts their house on the market, they agree to pay both agents. So they have already agreed before you've even seen their house that they're going to pay their agent and they're going to pay me. So my fee is actually paid for by the seller. So it's much better to be a buyer than a seller. So let's definitely find you a house that's going to be a good long-term fit. So you don't have to be a seller anytime soon. All right, section 9. This is my favorite one. This is the dumb old real estate agent clause. So this says, I'm not your tax attorney, your lender, your appraiser, your surveyor, your structural engineer, any of those people. I do have a lot of experience in all of those areas, so I may, from time to time, give you advice, but I would definitely recommend that you always seek professional help, especially when you're doing your taxes. I don't do my own taxes. I'm certainly not going to do yours for you. Representation of other buyers. I do represent other buyers from time to time, but I'm not going to let it get in our way. And if there was such a situation where somebody else came into my office and they said they wanted to buy in the same area right now, I would just refer them to somebody else because I can't be having someone who would be competing with you, who'd be working with me. So that just wouldn't happen. Subsequent offers, you're only going to put one offer in at a time. I'll guide you through all of that. Ministerial acts. This says that I can pick up paperwork for you, I can deliver, I can negotiate, but I cannot sign anything for you. There's no power of attorney anywhere in here. You have to sign everything, which that's a good thing and a bad thing. It protects your rights, but it also means that every time I need a change or something like that, I'm calling you up. I'm like, Jewel, I got another paper for you to sign. And then you have to get online and sign it. Everything we do is confidential. So even though so-and-so recommended you, I'm not going to tell them any of your business. Likewise, if you refer me to somebody else, I wouldn't tell you any of their business either. Section 10 talks about intra-company agency. A different person wrote this document. You'll see in the second line there, I'm gonna underline it. It talks about dual agency. Intra-company agency means the same thing as dual agency. And they just want to double check and make sure that I talked about it with you. Section 11A and B talks about flood insurance. I don't think you're going to need that where you're buying, but if you do need it, it's going to be required and it'll be part of the loan. The lender will make you pay it. Section 12 and Section 13 talk about legal construction and repairs of property. We don't know if they built the property properly. That's a tongue twister. And we don't know if it's fallen apart or anything like that, or if there's internal damage. So we're going to get it inspected to make sure that all of these things are the way it's supposed to be. Paragraph 14 talks about home warranties. There are home warranties available. Maybe we get the seller to buy it. Maybe you buy it, or maybe you just don't buy it at all and you self-insure. Self-insure is just making sure that you have enough money in the bank to fix things as they break. 13 is addenda. It's just the other things that I went over here with you. Business relationship notice. So the rest of this page talks about a little company called CNC Title. I guess you can guess where they got the name from. Cummings Company created CNC Title. So Dave Cummings, the broker of Cummings Company, created a title company just to make things easier and everything. And since the companies are both owned by Dave, he has to disclose what typical fees are. So these are typical fees at the bottom. These are also typical fees that would be incurred by any title company. There might be small variations, but most of them are charging very close to the same thing. And you're under no obligation to use CNC title. Just like you were saying about your inspector, you get to pick your title company and everything. I'll give you some advice, but ultimately it's your decision. And then the bottom of that is the acknowledgement. And I would sign it here. And then there are 4 things that I would have you sign. Any questions for me? I know it's a lot.
Right. Do I have questions at this particular moment?
Right.
No.
Okay. You will.
Well, yeah, right.
For sure. And you can always ask those questions. So here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go through, again, show you where to sign. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go scan this in. I'm going to keep the digital copy. I'm going to give you back the paper copies. And then you'll take all of this stuff with you. Okay?
Sounds good.
We'll go here. Let's take that page. Okay, let me go scan this. I'll be right back. Okay, now I'll put this in the folder for you. So you have all of your legal documents here on one side. I gotta pick up the folder sometimes to get it to squeeze in there. Make sure it stays nice and neat. So you've got everything that we went over and then the legal stuff in here. You'll have this to take with you. And then what I'm gonna do from here is I'm gonna set up the search today. So you'll start getting this once a day. You'll probably get something today or tonight. Worst case scenario, it'll be first thing tomorrow. You'll start getting an auto email. First one you'll get will say, do you give permission to receive this? You'll click on that and then it'll automatically come through. And you'll automatically get an auto email every day that something new comes on the market. Okay? And then, let's see, today is Wednesday and you're working pretty much 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So if I set up the search and let's say it reveals 30 or 40 houses that are a good match for you, how long do you think online it would take you to look through those houses and come up with your 4 or 5 favorites? Like 2 days or 3 days?
Honestly, 30 or 40, I'm pretty decisive, so I'd say honestly in a matter of hours.
Okay, so if I set this up today, you get it today or tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. Would you like to try to go out Friday? Go look at some
definitely.
of these? Great. So you want to, Friday, are you working till 5 on Friday?
I am.
Okay. So why don't we just say we'll start at 5 on Friday, and between now and then, you'll determine which houses it'll be, and then we'll set up the schedule from there and make it happen.
Great.
All right. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.